The doctor will feed you now. I love it. I'm so pleased to join you here in the Primal Kitchen with nutrition nut, author and founder of Primal Cure, Steve Bennett. And we've
Always a
also
pleasure.
got, thank you so much for being here, and Dr. Dan, who's coming to show us some of his carb dodging recipes.
I am, and if we're going to get this done,
We've got to get started straight away, do we?
I have to throw the beef
Yeah,
in
we can do it in
already.
half an hour. All
Okay.
our programs we try and nail in half an hour because that's how long we like to cook our meals. And also, this is a variation on the bolognese that we have in the Primal Gourmet book, only for one reason only, which is to prove that once you understand how to cook healthily, variations are always a good thing. Spice, what they say, spice is the something of life. Variety is the spice of life.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Variety is the spice of life. There's over 100 recipes in the gourmet book, and this is a slight variation on that. There's no point in just cooking exactly what's there, otherwise what's the point of the show? So, you've got minced beef.
Yeah.
Gone lean or full fat?
I usually go fairly full fat.
Okay.
Okay, because it's cheaper for starters.
Yeah.
And if you're not, even if you don't want all the fat, you just, when it's cooked, you
Drain it out.
just drain it out, and you can use it I use that for cooking on other days as well. So great flavour to it.
Can you think of any reason at all why anybody should buy lean beef?
No.
No.
But I
Thank you,
thought
Doctor.
fat was meant to be bad for you.
Pardon?
I thought fat wasn't too bad for you, or so we've been told.
Yeah, come on, you're a nutritionist.
Yeah.
You know better than that. You know
But
better than that.
at home.
Look, anything that says low fat normally is not as good as the full fat version. Low fat milk, forget it, it loses nearly all the nutritional benefit of whole milk. Low fat beef, well, if there's low fat, what have they taken out? How have they altered it? What have they messed around with? Fat is not the enemy as long as it's natural fats. Fat is only the enemy when it's manufactured fats, when it's trans fats, when it's been alterated with hydrogen and all sorts. But natural fats, coconut, olive oils, from meat, from ghee, from butter, if it's organic and wholesome, it's good for you.
That can be your friend in the right form.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So cooking up the beef
So
there.
just browning the beef off, that's probably the thing that takes the longest out of this whole recipe, to
Gives
be
us a chance
honest.
to
So
talk.
gives us a chance to talk. It's just to add a bit of flavour into it. So the actual browning of the beef is like the temperature causes a chemical reaction with some of the amino acids. It causes that browning. That's called the Maillard reaction, and that adds a ton of flavour.
Okay.
Absolutely awesome. So then when you've it's like the sear on the outside of a steak that adds all that flavour to the steak. It's that reaction. That's what we're trying to go for with the browning of the meat, just
Great.
to add a bit of flavour.
But as
Great
Dr.
source
Dan
of
will tell you,
protein.
as he sat with me in Switzerland the other day, I had some local beef. I knew the farmer, diced it all up, completely raw. Right, completely raw. If you know it's organic, if you know where it's come from, if you know the cattle are looked after, then steak tartare, as it's known as, chopped up, diced just like this. I think I had it 2 or 3 nights in a row.
Wow.
Having the same thing over and over again is probably not that great for you, but yeah, look, steak is healthy.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're vegetarian, this meal's not for you, then there'll be alternatives out there. But steak is healthy. Don't overly worry with steak. Pork is a bit different, chicken obviously very different, but with steak, don't overly panic about how well you cook it.
Dr. Dan, as a doctor,
Hello, Poppy.
hello. How serious?
She's about to ask you, doctor.
Doctor. How serious do you actually take healthy eating?
Oh, well, having been someone who, was really struggle with my weight, I take it pretty seriously these days. I think you've got to strike a balance with living your life. But I think that depends on what your goals are. I think, I don't mind, I take, for example, it's my birthday coming up. And, so I will probably not be strictly low carb on my birthday. Okay, just as an example.
No
So,
cupcake.
no.
Birthday cake.
No. So, I think it's a case of, but for the majority of the time, it's like the vast majority of the time I am, pretty strict on myself with my diet, to be honest. So
Do you feel like you need to set an example as a doctor for patients and so on with your healthy eating?
I feel like we should set an example. I think I don't think I used to set an example for my patients, especially when I was really struggling with my weight. And actually, I think really I've come to believe over the last few years that we really should be, you know, trying to set examples for our patients.
But you can't blame doctors for being overweight, because doctors, again, always correct me if you think I'm talking out of turn.
Yeah.
You know, we love our NHS. We think doctors have a really difficult job because there's queues and queues of people waiting to see them.
Absolutely.
But doctors are trained mainly to identify what the problem is and describe what the right medication is. And when it comes to nutrition, why you see a lot of overweight doctors is they just don't understand it. Because when it comes to your 4 or 5 years, I don't know how long you studied in medical school.
Yeah, absolutely.
5 years at most, what, 2-3 days on nutrition?
Yeah, very minimal, and a lot of it's really focused on malnutrition, to be honest. So you know, that's a large amount of our focus. I mean, to be honest, it's not like we see a lot of malnutrition in the UK, but it's just done as an overall thing. But really, you know, I think we always taught about the carb side of the metabolism, but we don't really talk too much about the other side of the metabolism, which is the side of the metabolism which is where we burn our fats within our body. So I think it's really, really important to address that, but we just didn't get a huge amount of teaching on it.
No.
By the way, it doesn't need 2 people to stir the food. It's just that while we're talking,
We're all getting involved.
we'll get it burnt if we don't. Always keep your food moving or it burns. And
Yeah.
burnt meat in particular can be a bit dangerous, a bit carcinogenic. So always try and avoid burning meat if possible.
So that's just going to brown off for a couple more minutes.
Can I ask you, the bacon? I was always told, from many other people have been told, bacon's bad for you.
So try and get bacon as unprocessed as possible.
Okay.
And certainly with sausages, you know, even sausages, I cook a lot of pork, a lot of Thai pork dishes. If your sausages are as close to just being pure pork, fantastic. But often with sausages, you don't know what's gone into them. That's why, so don't confuse sausages with bacon as much. Sausages are also good, but you need to know what's gone into it. Bacon normally, as long as it's not overly processed, is good for you. In fact, there's a great book out there called Eat Bacon, Don't Jog, where he's talking about how there's so many misconceptions around food. Bacon overall, you know, give me bacon, eggs, avocado, salmon in the morning over cereals any day of the week in terms of health.
Yeah, quite right. Great sources of protein, vitamins, and nutritious, wholesome food that we have here.
So that's browning off nicely. It's smelling great. I've added a little bit of bacon in there, which is what prompted the bacon conversation. So, and while that is finishing off there, we're going to make some courgette.
Ooh.
Okay. So basically, courgettes, 2 grams of carbs per 100 grams, really super low. And you know, they make a really good substitute for spaghetti. So it's quite a common low carb trick.
And while Dan's doing that, let me explain, we are substituting spaghetti because spaghetti itself is very high in carbs. And if you're trying to get your weight down and avoid nasty diseases and trying to get your health in check, then avoid the non-nutritional carbohydrates. Avoid the pastas, the rices, the breads, the potatoes. And therefore, wherever we can, we don't want to lose those lovely meals like the chili con carne. We don't want to not have bologneses in our life. But let's cut out the carbs. And
actually, before I do this, I'm going to add in some of the other stuff to this. Just add in some onion, some celery, and some garlic, just so that gets frying off while we make the rest of it. Okay.
Both of which got great anti-inflammatory properties. Celery, you're talking about your onions there.
Fantastic.
So good for you. So good for you. Many people, they talk about celery being great for high blood pressure. So actually, many doctors sort of say, if you've got high blood pressure, I know cholesterol is something that we talk about, obviously there's good and bad cholesterol, but if you've got any of the bad cholesterol that's raised, celery is great for that as well.
Potentially there's such thing as bad cholesterol, but again, depends which doctor you talk to. Because if you speak to Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, who's one of the top heart experts in the UK, he'll say, well, actually, cholesterol isn't the bad guy.
No.
Fat in the arteries is, but actually fat in the arteries doesn't come from fat you eat, it comes from something called de novo lipogenesis, which is
big word. Yeah, wow.
which is where the liver takes excess sugar, in particular fructose, and converts it into the fat. It's almost impossible of that fat in our arteries to have come from fat that we've eaten. Again, a big myth. And here's an interesting one. So Dr. Dan's going to use chopped tomatoes. Just make sure, again, read the ingredients at the back. Just make sure it's not got added sugars, because a lot of these especially baked beans as well. But a lot of these in cans, we've got lots of stuff thrown into it that we're trying to avoid.
Syrups and so on, yeah.
Should we do the spiralizer? This is quite cool if you've not seen it before. So I don't know if
Get one of these. I don't sell them, but get one. They're not expensive. You can find them on Amazon. They are just fantastic. And if you haven't got one of these, you can already buy the courgettes in most supermarkets. I know certainly Sainsbury's sell them in a bag. And sometimes at home, if we're in rush, we'll just go out and buy them already done like this.
Could I ask if we just turn that ever so slightly, just so we can see that?
Yep.
Just the other
This
way.
way?
Yeah, that way.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. Just look at that. Look at that. That's brilliant. Smell, do you know what as well? What's cooking in the pan as well smells amazing.
You can really smell the celery, can't you? Fantastic.
Beautiful smell.
And you notice what Dan and I do most of the time, not always. A lot of people would start with the onion and the celery first, but then you overcut them and you lose a lot of flavour, but you also lose, it gets a bit soggy. You lose a bit of the nutritional benefit. So we tend to put a lot of things like the onions and the celery in a little bit later than most people, just to keep that nutritional value.
Yeah, I think sometimes if I had a bit more time, I might take the beef out and cook the rest of it as well. So yeah, you can do it like that, or you can just shove it all in together. Happy days.
Look at that, that's a mountain of courgette.
Left over.
Look at that. Look at that.
The great thing is as well with what we're showing you here in terms of recipes and healthy but tasty recipes, you know, how samey is the food that you're making at home at the moment. This is an opportunity for you to be able to mix it up for you and your family. And you know, there's different variations, ways in which you can make the meal that Dr. Dan's making today. I mean, if you look at the Primal Gourmet recipe book, you'll see another variation of it. So yeah, it just really keeps things interesting. What did you say at the beginning of
one of the things, Poppy, is that when you go primal as a parent, one of the first things you get from your kids is, well, I still want this and I still want that and I still want my bolognese, and you can't say no to them, because if you go too far one way, then they rebel. Right? They just do go, I've had enough of this, Dad. I want my chili. I want this. I want that. So what's great about this is you give them the food they want, but all you've changed in this case really is the pasta, which is high in carbs, which is therefore becomes high in sugar once we digest it, to courgettes, which is high in nutrition and very, very, very low in carbohydrates.
Yeah, absolutely. Making something that they love, but with a spin on that they should still really be excited about. Dan, can I ask, what have you just popped in there?
Just some oregano. I was going to say oregano.
I like it.
Oregano.
I'm supposed to be the dyslexic one here.
I'm just being a bit American there, aren't I? Yeah. And basil.
And basil. Oh, I like basil.
So yeah, we're just getting a bit of herbs in there just to add in there, and I've got a bit of beef stock. I'm going to add in a bit of balsamic vinegar. It's just all adds to the richness. You can add a bit of wine in and get that simmering down as well.
Fabulous.
And then we're going to add some tomato
balsamic
puree.
vinegar, by the way, it's not yet proven medically, but balsamic vinegar we think aids weight loss.
Wow. How so? How would it work?
Well, same as cider apple vinegar.
Yep.
We think it works for the immune system, and we think, there's no proof yet, I'm not trying to sell you anything, because I don't sell balsamic vinegar, I'm just saying to you, we believe there's lots of research now that suggests it helps with weight loss. So
amazing.
Bring a bit of vinegar in, and again, the salads, put balsamic vinegar mixed in with your olive oil, drizzle it over a salad, happy days.
Bit of tomato going in here as well. Ooh. And really, a bit of salt and pepper, and that's finished. Just got to let it cook down. Now, I'd normally let this simmer down for 45 minutes, an hour, even longer actually. Sometimes I do this in the slow cooker at home, but you can eat it from about 20-30 minutes. Best thing about bolognese, eating the next day.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it.
Always seems to taste better the next day, doesn't it? So just has time for those flavours to all kind of combine and just get awesome.
Fantastic.
Awesome. But I guess the bit you're really tuned in to watch is the magic with the courgettes in a moment, because the key thing here, we haven't really changed much in the actual bolognese to what you might cook already. We've suggested you go full fat meat because we believe that's best for you. We've talked about the tinned tomatoes and how they should be. Check the back of the can. If you can't find those without added sugar, then just chop up your own tomatoes, bit of tomato puree as well. The vinegar we just said is really, really healthy for you. You're absolutely right. You mentioned put the celery in and the onions in a little bit later than maybe you have done in the past, just to retain a lot of that good nutrition. A little bit crunchy as well. Adds a bit of something to the dish.
Yeah.
But really, we have, and bacon. We've hopefully got rid of that myth that bacon's not good for you. Bacon is fine for you, right? Of course, if you're going to fry it in vegetable oil, well, that's something totally different, because vegetable oil we don't recommend, because vegetable oil is made of anything but vegetables. So, you know, when we talk about fat and oil being good for you, we talk about natural fats being good for you. Your olive oil, your coconut oil, your ghee, your organic butter, etc., etc., etc. But one thing I really want to get across, and there's books and books now written on this, vegetable oil is a no-no if you love your children, your family, or whoever you are cooking for, because vegetable oil is from anything but vegetables. It tends to be soy, tends to be corn, and nearly always is genetically modified crops. So
not what we've got there. Look at all the juices, the oils, the goodness. I mean, just that on camera there. This is a great recipe for somebody that's a real foodie. I mean, I absolutely love my food. I don't want to be left hungry. I don't want to be left hungry. I want something that is tasty, that is wholesome, that's going to
There's one
leave
thing
me
about
full.
Primal, you never have to be hungry. You never have to be hungry. You can be, if you choose to be, because I choose to be hungry quite a lot.
Why is that then? What's that in relation to? When you do fasting, is it?
To do fasting, so I will choose some days not to eat any food.
Okay, wow.
I mean, nothing all day till the next day. I can go 36 hours, I go 48 hours, once every 3 months I try and go 72 hours without any food, choosing to be hungry, because I believe it kickstarts the repair system within the body. Yeah. And when you start to ignore the hunger sort of pangs, which is a hormone, that's all it is, and it's a hormone known as ghrelin. Once you ignore
Sounds like a gremlin in itself.
Yeah, gremlin, yeah, so it's called ghrelin. It's the opposite to leptin, which is a hormone that tells you that you are full. Ghrelin is sent to the brain to say you're hungry. But if you ignore him, wonderful things happen in the body. Self-repair systems kick in. Metabolism goes up and not down. So people used to say if you don't eat, meals, then actually your metabolism slows right down. No, it's the opposite. Your metabolism goes up. So, you don't need to ever feel hungry eating primally, but you may choose to.
How are we doing for time, guys? Should I be dishing up?
Yeah, we've got plenty.
You could dish up, yeah.
Yeah. So, I just want to. The key to this stuff here, the courgette, is not overcooking it, because it will turn to mush.
Right.
So, got a tiny little bit of boiling water in the bottom of the pan here.
And just explain how much you've got in there, because I mean it is
like a dribble. It's just to create a little bit of steam to cook this with.
And have you got the heat on full?
Got the heat on full.
Yeah.
And really, it's just maximum of a couple of minutes, really, just to.
So you're not frying in oil?
Through. No, I mean I sometimes do this in butter, but we haven't got any here at the moment. But sometimes I just put it in like that. But it's just to heat it through. It's not.
And the water is pretty much just to stop it
sticking and to create a bit of steam. Just to.
Would you put a lid on there sometimes?
Yeah, have we got a lid on there? Have we got a lid?
You're constantly stirring.
Can I ask for anybody that might be thinking, well, I might do this in the microwave. Would you suggest this being a lot better than the microwave? Obviously, is it obvious? Is that
that's a great question. So, for sure, what I've learnt over the years, my little Louis, when we used to microwave his milk in the morning, would go up and stare to the microwave like that, and look at his milk bottle going round. That's a definite no-no, right? So the radiation that comes while the microwave's on is definitely a no-no. You need to be back from it.
Okay.
Right? Electromagnetic forces cannot be good in any way, shape. That's why when you're on the mobile phone, try not to have it to your ear. Try and have it on speakers or on hands-free. Microwaving food, we think, is okay.
Yeah.
It will be probably another 100 years till we know otherwise, but we pretty much think it's okay. Because once you take it out the microwave, you've just changed the heating process. You've not changed the structure of the food. So we think it's okay. So yes, you could put this in the microwave. You absolutely could. But let's play safe.
Okay.
Let's stick
let's do the healthiest option. That we know the healthiest option is anyway. Yeah. So this is really a fantastic option for somebody looking to, just have real small steps, little wins to help themselves and, eat that healthier
perfect
throughout the week, and their family as well. It's like a slithery snake or something. It looks like a healthy version of
Not
those.
overly cooked.
Those sweets, those worms.
Good man.
Sweets. We don't talk about sweets
Exactly,
here,
that's what I'm saying,
Poppy.
healthy version.
Okay, so let's just get that all piled out.
So the thing is that if you really was to stop and think about it, other than the fact in your mouth that most things like bread and pasta turn into sugar, so a bit sweet, the actual flavour before that happens is pretty bland. So here you've got something much more flavoursome that serves the same function but much healthier. Does your wife like this?
Oh yeah, she
courgettes?
loves this.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Is your wife
totally.
eat healthy?
Was totally initially a little bit sceptical of it, but most people, and if you are sceptical of this, that's absolutely fine, because you've just sometimes it takes a little bit of a leap of faith to try something new. But she was like, "Wow, you don't really notice the difference between the courgettes and the spaghetti, because all that really is adding a bit of flavour, or adding texture really, rather than adding flavour." Just a little bit of parmesan to finish off.
And again, cheese, if you can find organic, and you can find organic parmesan cheese now in most supermarkets, it's fantastic. It's one of the few areas, if it's not, because of the process it goes from, from milk into cheese, it's pretty safe anyway. But if you can go organic, go organic. There are over 100 recipes in this book. This recipe is in there, although Dr. Dan's just put his little twist on that, his own twist. And that's kind of what we encourage in the book. The first third of the book is about all the ingredients that you can add to your food that cuts down on sugar. Very, very low carbohydrate foods all the way through. And it's all about getting the ingredients and understanding ingredients and then making your own spin on it. And then every time you cook can be slightly different.
Yep. So all this is just some full-fat ground beef with some, onions.
Sorry, ladies first. No, ladies first. Go on.
Thank you so much.
Tomatoes. There's some celery in there, and to add a bit of flavour, balsamic vinegar, some herbs, oregano, basil, bit of salt and pepper, bit of beef stock.
Wow.
It's really pretty easy dish really, and the main switch out is just one from courgette to from spaghetti to courgette.
Honestly, courgette.
Spaghetti to courgette, I like that.
I know, make it into a little rhyme there. Honestly,
And that is the main change. The rest of it
tastes better. It really does.
100%.
Yeah.
That is, we were both obese. Dan's story is a fascinating one in that he was away skiing in a lodge and saw somebody putting butter in their coffee in the morning and went over and questioned this individual. And that's how you learn that actually fat's not the enemy, and actually once you can move over from cooking high carbohydrates to quality fats and vegetables and nutrition and whole foods like this, that's when the magic happens. Because you're right, the only real difference we've been careful about the choice of ingredients in terms of making sure that the bacon was as natural as possible. We've gone whole fat on the beef rather than lean. We have been a little bit careful on the can of tomatoes, making sure there's no nasties added into that. And then on top of that, the only thing we've really changed is a bit of the process in terms of we put the onions and celery in a bit later than most people to keep some of the nutritional value. So the only really big change is we've used courgettes instead of pasta.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Do you want to taste that? Can I just say, you can really, really taste every single ingredient that's gone into there. The balsamic vinegar, actually, I didn't think that you'd be able to taste much of that, but you've really got, that sensation coming through. It's so rich and so savoury and so wholesome. Dan, just for everybody at home, can you summarise just what's needed ingredient-wise, what's been done there?
Yep. So we've just got obviously the courgettes for the courgette. We've got full-fat beef, gritty ground beef, bacon, garlic, olive oil, bit of beef stock, celery, balsamic vinegar. It sounds like a lot of list here, but it's kind of often things that you often have
most
around.
of it in the kitchen.
Yeah, often have them around the house anyway. Tomato puree, oregano, basil, tins of chopped tomatoes, and a bit of parmesan to finish it off.
That is amazing.
It tastes really fresh, and even actually if you cook that down for a little bit longer, the flavours become even richer, and it'll taste great tomorrow. That will.
It's all about the ingredients, and it's about trying to keep it as fresh as possible, And you can change things out. You could change one day the balsamic vinegar out for wine. You could put some wine in, put the wine in a little bit earlier to burn off the alcohol. You can put wine in for kids, no problem with that at all, as long as you really cook it right down to burn off the alcohol. You can change a few of those different things there. You could change the can of tomatoes for chopped tomatoes and make your own tomato sauce. In fact, in the Primal Gourmet, we do a homemade tomato sauce. So yeah, there's lots of variations. The key thing is cutting down on the carbohydrates and going for the quality fats. I mean, this will help you go into ketogenesis without a shadow of a doubt. If you're already in keto, it will maintain you there. It's great for the evening. You could now put this on one side, stick it in the fridge, have it tomorrow morning, cold or warm. Could reheat it, don't need to reheat it. And this is where people go so wrong. They think, I've got to have cereal in the morning because that's what we've been doing for the last 30 years. But cereal is nothing more than carbohydrates once we've eaten it, which spikes the sugar level. This as a breakfast would be so much more healthy. You probably wouldn't have time to make it in the morning, but just make enough for yourself for nighttime and morning, bigger portion sizes, a really economical way to cook. And a great way to start. Kids go to school on that in the morning, much more healthy than going to school on cereals or Weetabix,
I'll tell you what, I do this in, I often, like I said earlier, I do this in a big batch cooker, you know, like a slow cooker. I will literally take this recipe 4 times over, put it in the freezer. It's great. And you know, especially if I'm working late one evening, wife's away perhaps or something like that, and you know, I don't want to go and make some unhealthy choice. That was a real big weakness for me, was when I'd been working late. So yeah, it's great to just.
Well, you do that, and you do a lot of out of hours and home visits, don't you, as a doctor yourself? And
so it's just having something great in the freezer that's a good go-to meal. And then all you have to do is, and even if you, the only reason we do the courgettes like this is to simulate the spaghetti. But really, honestly, there's no reason you can't just dice up a courgette and fry it off, or just steam it up and have it. There's no reason to actually do it like that. And in fact, that's very often how I do cook it, because you know, it's just there as an extra bit of greens really, rather than to, if you don't actually want to simulate the courgette, the spaghetti.
And one of the key things is, if you're trying to get your weight down, trying to avoid, you know, the chronic diseases that just blight our country at the moment, don't just cook this in the evening. Cook it in the evening and think about keeping some for breakfast, but also put it in a dish and have it in your car. So then when you're driving past the Greggs, the McDonald's, the fast foods, you know, I can't even name them all now, but the Kentucky Fries, rather than be tempted to go in and eat masses of either unhealthy fats or carbohydrates, just bring out your Tupperware bowl. There's more flavour. It's enjoyable. Most works have a microwave oven, or just cold. I mean, it's just fabulous, fabulous.
It really is a first and easy step towards healthy eating in the daytime. You know, you're not tempted to just grab something out of, you know, quickness and convenience. You've got something there ready to go that honestly will taste so much better, I believe. Now, just remember as well, you can find all these recipes online on our website, and this has been done by a doctor. Dr. Dan, our GP. Well, not our GP. Well, he kind of is our GP. Primal doctor.
I think Vicky, his wife, would probably say otherwise. But I hope you've enjoyed this recipe. Look, just check us out on the internet. Check us out at primalcure.com. Check out Dr. Dan Maggs, who will be very famous over coming years for his carb dodging techniques, and it's all about how you get away from the carbohydrates into real foods. And in fact, talking about carb dodging, that's exactly what this is.
Absolutely.
This menu is completely, it's a bolognese, and you've that big plate of pasta. A big plate of pasta, underneath that will probably have as much sugar in it once you've consumed it as 2 or 3 cans of fizzy pop. How dreadful is that if you're trying to lose weight? It's got no flavour, it's got no nutrition, it's just bland. This is a fabulous, fabulous dish. It means we can still enjoy our bolognese, we can carb dodge all day long. It's a Primal Cure recipe in the book with a little twist there from Dr. Dan. Keep watching the channel. Thank you very, very much for staying with us and trying your best to live as healthy as possible.